Have you ever heard of anonymous surrogacy? Wait, is that even possible? Well, we'll talk about it in this episode. Stick around. What's up? I'm Corlandos Scott, and I'm an assisted reproduction attorney in Los Angeles, and I help people grow their families through assisted reproductive technologies like surrogacy. So I've had intended parents ask me, and even friends and colleagues ask, have you ever done an anonymous surrogacy arrangement? So in this episode, we're going to look at exactly what that may mean. I'm going to talk about how it depends on the phase. Then we're going to look at why it's a logistical no-go. And finally, we'll talk about why it's a legal no-go. Let's get into it. I understand why people may ask this question. And really, it comes from a different side of assisted reproduction, and that's egg donor arrangements and sperm donor arrangements. In egg donation and sperm donation, it's possible to do what we call an anonymous arrangement. And that's where the recipients of the egg or the sperm never know the legal identity of the donor. And likewise, the donor never knows the legal identity of the recipients of the sperm or egg. So people wonder, can you do that in surrogacy? I mean, it's just another form of assisted reproductive technology, right? So can we have an anonymous surrogacy arrangement where the intended parent doesn't know who the surrogate is and where the surrogate doesn't know who the intended parent is? Let's first talk about what phase of the process this could even remotely be possible. Now, let's be honest. When the surrogacy match first occurs, 9 times out of 9, unless they're known as friends or family, the surrogate doesn't know the intended parents, and the intended parents don't know the surrogate. So that initial meeting is a meeting of strangers altogether. But how can we make that anonymous? Well, I usually see this when I'm working with celebrity couples. So if you're a celebrity or a public figure and you don't want for the general public to know that you're considering going through the surrogacy process, you may ask, well, I want to match. Can I match with the surrogate anonymously? And at the match phase of the process, I would say, yes, it's possible. So how do we do this? Well, typically what will happen in a match process is each side will get a profile about the other. The parents would get a profile about potential surrogate candidates, and those surrogates would get the profile of intended parents interested in matching with them. Now, in this profile, you don't have to include your legal identity, your legal name. One of the things that I've had high-profile clients do is talk about yourself, your family, your hopes and dreams for growing your family, maybe a little bit about what you do, and sometimes you have to speak in generalities. If you're royalty from another country or if you're the top host of a show on television, you probably can't say that specifically, but you can talk about the industry that you're involved in or the type of work you do so that you give the surrogate an idea of who you are. Remember, it's just as important to surrogates as it is intended parents that they are able to match and find common ground with the other person or persons that they'll be working with. After the match process is typically when the identities of the parties should be known. If you're really concerned about revealing your identity, one of the things you can do right before you start the next step of the matching process, which is starting the medical and psychological evaluations and screenings, is to do a non-disclosure agreement. In the non-disclosure agreement, of course, you would state that the other party cannot in any event share information about your personhood or your identity with anyone else. Oftentimes, once that NDA is in place, the parties are typically comfortable enough letting each other know who the other person is and moving forward with the process. Another thing that this protects for couples or individuals who are looking to go through the surrogacy process and grow their family with the help of a surrogate is that it relieves them of the idea that maybe a surrogate only matches with them to take advantage of their status or to take advantage of their financial situation. So once we have the match set up, we've already agreed on the basic terms of any compensation and things like that. So the surrogate has already agreed to the basic terms before she ever finds out that the intended parent or parents are public figures or celebrities, so to speak. I have to mention this because several people say, Corlandos, those surrogates who work with celebrities, they're just taking advantage of the celebrities because they know they can get paid a lot. Not so, because in my experience, they've already agreed to the basic terms before they ever find out who that intended parent or parents are. Now, in very few cases, I've seen arrangements where the intended parents were so secretive with their identity that they wanted to go all the way through the entire contract phase before they reveal their identity. In other words, they went through the match process, they did a non-disclosure agreement, they went ahead and had the surrogate go through medical screening, psychological screening. Then they entered into the legal process of drafting a surrogacy contract. And once they had completed the surrogacy contract and that they were ready to issue the final version to be notarized, and everyone was in verbal agreement and the only thing left was to sign that dotted line, then and only then did they ask that their legal names be placed on that surrogacy contract. So if we're asking, can you do an anonymous surrogacy arrangement? I would say that's the greatest extent to which I would be comfortable going, arranging some type of anonymity in a surrogacy legal arrangement. If you're watching this and you're a celebrity or public figure, you may be wondering, well, how do I start this process? Well, make sure you hit the subscribe button first of all, but then go back and watch my video on which agencies do celebrities work with, and it'll give you a little insight into how to navigate things as a public figure. Let's jump right back in. Next, I want to talk about why an anonymous surrogacy arrangement would be a logistical no-go. First of all, let's just be real. For intended parents, you are trusting a surrogate with the most precious thing in your possession, your future child. And I find it hard to believe that anyone would not want to know the identity of the woman who was carrying something so important to them. So logistically, it would make it very difficult for you to have an anonymous surrogacy arrangement because you want to know what's going on. Intertwined with that is the fact that as a surrogate, you give up some of your rights to keep your medical records private. After all, what you're doing is completely medical in nature, and if you didn't allow the intended parents access to your medical records, they would never know how the baby's doing, when the checkups were, what appointments were coming up, when you went into delivery, or anything like that. Now, parents don't get access to all your records for your entire life. They only should be entitled to the ones that pertain to that surrogacy arrangement. But at the same time, you have to be known in order for them to get access to those records. Another thing that intended parents want is the ability to attend appointments with the surrogate. Or if they're unable to attend appointments, they may want to be available by video call, by Zoom or Skype, or however you want to bring them into the room. And again, this is very difficult if you want to remain anonymous. So it's just impractical, and that's why I call it a logistical no-go. Finally, as a surrogate, there are some decisions that you just can't make on your own. Since the intended parents are the legal parents of the child you're carrying, they need to be able to make those decisions. So they need to know when those decisions may arise. So with that, they're going to have a say. So there has to be a level of connection and communication that just doesn't jive with being anonymous. And I hope when I discuss these things, you understand a little better why an anonymous surrogacy is just a logistical no-go. Now let's talk about why an anonymous surrogacy arrangement is a legal no-go also. If you've been on my channel for a while, you may have seen the video that I did on finalizing parental rights. If you haven't, make sure again you subscribe and go back and check out that video on establishing parental rights. And the process of finalizing the parental rights is one of the main reasons why an anonymous surrogacy is a legal no-go. When you start the process of finalizing the parental rights, you want the court to know actually who should be the legal mother and father. And you don't want a pseudonym or some type of alias on that court paperwork. First of all, it is falsifying court documents. Second of all, if my name is John Smith, I don't want to put John Doe on the paperwork because John Smith wants the parental rights. So when we get to the finalization of parental rights stage and you're filing paperwork in court, we need for everyone's legal name to be on all the documents, and we need everyone to sign those documents. So when it comes to that part of the process, there's absolutely no way that you can remain anonymous, because we need your legal name to actually affect making them the legal parents of the unborn child. So at the end of the day, every surrogacy arrangement is going to be a known, or open if you want to call it that, arrangement. There are certain parts that we can keep anonymous maybe at the very beginning, but at the end of the day, if you're trusting someone with the most precious thing to you, you have to also trust them with your identity. It just comes with the territory. So if you got something out of this video, make sure you click the link below and subscribe. But also, I got something free for you. So if you're thinking about going through the surrogacy process and you're wondering where in the heck do I start, make sure you download my surrogacy roadmap. It's a tool that I created that shows you exactly what happens throughout the entire surrogacy process. It takes you from beginning to end and covers every step in between. So if you want that, click the link below and get access to the surrogacy roadmap today.